My name is Liam Bellamy from RRI Advisory. This video is part of our Demystifying Insolvency series, and we're looking at the liquidation of companies in this video. Liquidation is a form of external administration that a company may go to in order to wind up its affairs, realise its assets, and distribute the funds from that realisation to the creditors of the company. There are three types of liquidations that we're involved in on a regular basis. The first type is called a members voluntary liquidation, which is where the company is solvent and is able to pay its debts as and when they fall due. And basically the purpose of that one is to enable the assets to be realised and any surplus proceeds to be distributed back to members. The second type that we see on a common basis is a creditors voluntary liquidation, and that's where the company is insolvent and unable to pay all of its creditors. The role of the liquidator in that instance is to realise the assets of the company and distribute the proceeds in accordance with the priorities set out in the Corporations Act to the creditors to ensure that all creditors receive a benefit from the liquidation of the company. The third and final type of liquidation is called a court liquidation, and that's where a creditor of the company has taken debt recovery proceedings to wind up the company and have a liquidator appointed to realise the assets and investigate the affairs of the company. The main benefit of a liquidation is that it brings to an end the life of the company and allows an independent insolvency practitioner to be appointed to the company for the purposes of realising the assets of the company, and then also to investigate the conduct of the directors and the affairs of the business leading up to the liquidation. As part of that process, the liquidator is able to report to ASIC any misconduct of the directors that may arise from those investigations, and that allows creditors to understand why the company has failed to pay its debts as and when it falls due. The process of a creditor's voluntary liquidation and a member's voluntary liquidation is the same. A directors' meeting is convened for the purposes of convening a members' meeting of the company and for various resolutions to be passed appointing the liquidator. Following the members' meeting, the liquidator is appointed and he begins his process of taking control of the affairs of the company, including writing to the banks, securing the assets, and commencing the realisation process. The liquidator also takes control of the books and records and commences his investigations into the affairs of the company. 3 months after their appointment, if it's a creditor's voluntary liquidation, the liquidator is required to report to the creditors as to the outcomes of these various investigations and the likelihood of a dividend being paid to creditors. The effect that a liquidation has on the employees of the company is it essentially brings to an end their employment. They're entitled to their employee entitlements that they are generally entitled to under the law or under their employment contract, and the liquidator will go about calculating the value of those entitlements for each of the employees. Where there's insufficient assets available to pay the employees their entitlements owed, a government scheme called the Fair Entitlement Guarantee Scheme will step in and meet the outstanding liabilities for the Australian resident employees of the company. This scheme doesn't cover superannuation, and if there is insufficient funds to pay that liability, then that will remain unpaid at all times. The liquidation of the company allows for the director to step away from dealing with the creditors of the company on a day-to-day basis, and this may remove some stresses that the director may be experiencing on a day-to-day basis. In addition, the director's powers are suspended during the liquidation, and the director is required to help the liquidator at all times during his investigations into the affairs of the company. The director may be entitled to receive some of their employee entitlements that may exist at the time of the appointment of the liquidator. However, there's a statutory cap on these amounts. In addition, if the director has a director's loan account, then it may be pursued by the liquidator, and it would be wise to discuss these options with your advisors as a part of that liquidation process. If your business is experiencing financial difficulty or you're concerned about the financial position of the company, we recommend that you contact our office to have a complimentary meeting with us to discuss any concerns that you may have.